Hey y'all, welcome to First Comes Love, Then Comes Marriage podcast. My name is Lindsay Jackson,
And I'm Aaron Jackson.
and I'm so excited. Thank you for joining us time and time again, healing and growing. This is one of my favorite episodes because this is our recap episode where we talk about all the things from our interview and we dive a little deeper. This is going to be, Alex Aaron likes to call it a quick hitter because
Yeah.
this is like, there was so much in there. And so we're going to drop little nuggets, but go back and listen to the previous episode, which was our interview with Dr. Maura Jones, OBGYN extraordinaire, and she gave so many tips. So go back and listen to it. But these are the things that stuck out to us.
Yeah. So this is our postpartum episode.
This is our postpartum episode.
I just wanted to get that out there. I was saving that. So
I like that.
okay.
Yeah.
So I did take from the first interview. I took a lot of stuff out that was so juicy and valuable. I'm going to play it at the end just so everybody could get all the information. It had tips about what to do for postpartum. It had tips about pregnancy and
Prenatal
what to
visits.
do. Yeah, prenatal visits.
Yes.
And like it was like prenatal. Like if you were thinking,
Conception.
a conception visit.
Yes.
And stuff like that. So
that you didn't put in because she has so much information.
All the information.
And it's kind of like if you have a doctor in the family, you know, if you have a doctor in the family, you call in like your cousin up all the time and asking them questions. And that's what this interview felt like. It felt like we had someone in the family at our disposal and we were just like, oh my gosh, let me ask her a question.
Yeah, what about
this? And
yeah.
what about, so this, we got to put it, usually Aaron like cuts and edits some things just to make it seamless. You got to
I'm just gonna do
put all that back in.
Yeah, it'll be great. So
Okay.
Stay tuned for that. But for you, the question is, like, what are some of the things that you took away?
Okay.
Mother, woman.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. The main thing that I took away, which is key for life right now, for me especially in this year, my word of calmness, and peace, is she said you want to be at your optimal health going into pregnancy. And so, yes, 50% of pregnancies are unplanned, but this is just for me for life. Like when I think about it, she said, mind, body, and spirit. How am I living a healthy lifestyle? And it's crazy because I talk about this all the time at work with a coworker of mine, but I'm 36 now. So, it's so crazy. And the people who are in my life now that we have grown together, I called my best friend for his birthday and he called me for mine. And we're like, wow, we are in our mid 30s. And I can just instinctively recall like how I was and who I was in my 20s. And there's a saying like, if you knew me in my 20s, you don't know me, because we've changed and we've evolved and we've grown. And health is so important. Like being healthy, having my mind right, that's key. That's top notch. That's like ongoing, not just for pregnancy. That's the way I want to live body wise. She was like, get your weight under control, being healthy, spirit wise, staying in my word. Like it's all of those factors. When she said that, I said, oh, okay, this is exactly how I want to live consistently. And I think that everyone's in a different space.
Yeah.
And so, when you're in your 20s, you should live like how you want to live. And I remember I was like, I used to do that. So that's not to say that you can't live that way in your 20s or your teens or whatever age you're in. It's just also the reminder is staying healthy, coming back to a healthy place, coming back to, she talked about this, hydration. Hydration is so important. And I've always loved water. So if I'm gonna go out drinking, I'm gonna drink and drink water. Like I'm gonna live, okay? I'm gonna do both. And that was a key factor that she said that I know people know. It's like one of those things that's in the back of your head, like, okay, healthy. But practicing that.
That's the thing.
Making it a habit.
knowing something is good for you, and then also being mature enough to do it because it's good for you.
Actionable habits.
Yeah. Yes. That's the main key. As I get older, it's just like I'm getting to the point of life where I know that eating right and exercise is the best way to get healthier. And so I have to make these conscious decisions. And the thing about this whole season, we're talking about relationships like from inception all the way to marriage
Yes.
and sometimes to the ending
Throughout.
throughout. But a key factor for me was the desire part. It was like from the very beginning of the season, talking about desire. If you have a desire to get pregnant, you're going to do certain things. If you have desire to date somebody, you're going to do certain things.
Yeah.
And so knowing that you have a desire to get pregnant and this doctor is saying you need to be healthy, so you need to do these choices to help you get healthy. For men, there are certain things that they need to do, like to
Right.
keep their sperm count high. And I know some of my friends that had like low testosterone or low sperm count, and they told them you need to eat this way, you need to stop smoking, you need to go running, you need to have more zinc and watermelon and stuff like that. And so now it's like, now that we're getting the information, or now that I'm getting the information, the decision is on me. I can't claim ignorance.
Right.
And so that's one of the cool things about this episode, especially like she was just lacing us with game.
Yeah.
This is what you do. This is what you should do.
And the crazy
So
thing about it is, I think about like when you were saying, your friends did this and this, it's about your health and your journey. Because yes, there are individuals out there that are not living their healthiest lives, and they are able
yeah,
to reproduce, or they are able to function at work, or they're able to do those things, but not comparing yourself to other people, and understanding like, okay, this is how I want to live. And as she was talking, this is how I want to live. I want to live a healthy lifestyle. So that was a key point.
yeah.
What about you? What you got? What's a key?
I had so many key points, but I think the one that really stood out to me was just like postpartum, how important postpartum was for her, and how she was like, the delivering of the baby is just one small part, and that everybody in the culture focuses on.
Yeah.
And so she was like, you need to focus on prenatal and while during the pregnancy, and then really focus on after the pregnancy, and how I can help, or how other people can help after the pregnancy. And the labor, labor is a big deal for us because of our journey. But this one small part, it's like after the baby is delivered, it's showtime. It's
What's
showtime,
going
as
on?
we say.
She said that she was like, you know what? The labor is so small. She
Yeah.
was saying it as a factor to even who delivers the baby. Like that's important. But really the prenatal and the postpartum. And I have a doula friend
Yeah.
who was saying that's what she loves to do postpartum, because there is so much work that goes into postpartum that people don't even focus on. They call it the fourth trimester. And that's another part that's like, oh, we haven't even been thinking about this. We've been thinking about the labor and delivery. That's a day.
I know. Yeah,
Days.
you've been pregnant for 10 months,
Yes.
and then 2 to 3 days you're in labor,
Yes.
and then after you're done with labor, now
What's happening?
yeah. So
Yes.
out of the 9 to 10 months, I usually say 10 months because it's 40 weeks. But out of these 40 weeks, 3 days out of the 40 weeks, and people focus on those 3 days with the pregnancy plans and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's like but people think that's the climax of everything, but that is really just the beginning or the midpoint of it. So
it's getting to it's getting to that point that's actually really vital, really important. And we've shared before, for us, that prenatal care is so important, just to make sure that we're being heard by the doctors every visit. Most people go once a month. Most insurances cover once a month prenatal care. But for me and my whole pregnancy journey, I like to be seen every other week. I'm like, see me and make sure, and we will pay for it and make sure everything is going according to plan, because 4 weeks is such a long time. And so, like, for all, like you said, 10 months of those prenatal visits, I'm seeing my doctor and we're getting to know each other and we're establishing this relationship, is way more important than who's checking up on me while I'm in the hospital. Because hopefully there are so many people around you in the hospital that you're being taken care of, So those, like I said, 2 to 3 days is a small factor than the whole prenatal visit and then complete postpartum, which is longer than 6 weeks, which you talked about that as well. When it comes to people thinking postpartum is like, okay, 6 weeks of not having sex, maybe.
Yeah.
It's longer than 6 weeks. Recovery is so much more than just that 6 weeks.
And it's not just the body. You have to recover completely.
Yes.
Welcome to the Am I Wrong segment of First Comes Love, Then Comes Marriage podcast. This is part of the episode where I give you a situation where I do something and you tell me if I was wrong or if Lindsay was wrong. So Lindsay is the designated packer of the family. That's like one of her duties. She packs the clothes. I might put the clothes somewhere, or I'll put it in a designated area. And the magical fairy Lindsay, she packs the clothes for me.
Okay.
We recently went on a trip to celebrate my son's birthday, and an item was forgotten in Los Angeles. We have a speaker that we use for the kids, and I am in charge of electronics.
Okay,
I am in charge of all the chargers and the phones and the electronics and the headphones and stuff like that. I went to go return the rental car, and Lindsay packed, and I kept the electronic in a spot where I didn't think that it would be left, but it was left in California. Mm-hmm. And this speaker is very important to us because we use it to take the kids to school and everything. So I just want to know, because when Lindsay called, she gave me like a thumbs down. She was like, how did you leave that? And I'm thinking, like, you in charge of the packing, so you should have packed it. Or you should have checked in and was like, hey, baby, do I have anything? And I'm like, I could have went down a list.
Okay.
So am I wrong for the speaker not being packed and being left in California while we're in New York?
Okay. I just want to say that most of what he said was true. I'm in charge of packing. He's in charge of all things electronics. So all you have to do is simply answer the question, are speakers electronics? Because it's a speaker. He packs the speakers, the cords, anything that plugs in and requires electricity. So essentially, if you think about it, I'm packing clothes, toiletries, shoes, things of that sort. So we're separating it. And this is going to come up in the next couple of episodes when we talk about fair play. I'm very excited about it. But for now, you can go ahead and DM us on Instagram. Let him know that he's wrong because he did not put the speakers in a consolidated area for me to see and therefore pack. First Comes Love, TCM on Instagram or TikTok.
The speakers were in the same spot the whole trip, but you can call the voicemail at 412-LOVE-POD. That is 412-5683-763.
Or you can email us, let's talk at firstcomesLove-then-comes-marriage.com.
So welcome back. Like I said, we had a lot of information and a lot of footage that we still have for the interview. So we're going to play this footage for you. So listen up, take notes, because there's like jewels in there. Mm-hmm. So take notes and enjoy the rest of the interview.
And I know a lot of practices, it's one, you have a main doctor, but it's usually like 5 other doctors, right? Yeah. So they're on rotation, and on any given day, you might have to see the other person, and or that other person might be delivering you. Like, I don't think we had a doctor, with Shine. I'm like, never once did my doctor deliver me. It was always
somebody else,
either the nurse or like another doctor. Shine. So should you meet those people in the practice, or is it that is not really important because they're doing the delivering aspect of it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, culture in general places a lot of emphasis on the delivery. That is like what everyone is super focused on. But I really think the prenatal care is like actually the most important part, because you need to have that trust, that bond, that care to ensure that you get up to the point where you're in the delivery room and everything is healthy. So people care a lot about who's delivering them, and so they want to meet everyone in the practice. And people are like, whatever, they're just coming in to deliver a baby. Like, it doesn't really matter. What really matters to me is like seeing my provider in a prenatal care clinic setting and having continuity with them in that fashion.
Yeah.
But I think most people, they will take their whole practice. Like everyone meets every patient in case they end up delivering them. And it's just hard to like really form a bond with someone when you're switching providers like every other visit.
Right.
So it's better to have like, I try to have like a team where it's like me and one other person are kind of like sharing a patient. And if I'm not available, they can see this other person. Otherwise, they'll see me. The way we can really have a bond, and I get to know them and their family, and like what they're, just things about them and their care. And I can notice when things are off or something's different. But I think because of the way that the practice is set up now, like a lot of us don't really come in for deliveries anymore because we also have like husbands and kids and lives, and it's just hard to like always be on call for all your patients. So I think that's really more like in the spirit of like trying to like restore some like balance to our field, because it is very demanding and time consuming. And if I went in for every single delivery, my husband probably would divorce me. But I think that it's hard when you have someone your whole entire pregnancy and they don't deliver you. But granted, I really do think that the labor portion of it is, there's just so much emphasis on that part. It's just a small part. Really, the big part is like getting you to the delivery, and then the other big part is like postpartum. Once you have the baby, once the baby comes out, like we might never see you again, because we see you so much during your pregnancy, because that's just like the government cares about people who are pregnant with babies. Once you have a baby, the government doesn't care about you anymore, and so you don't see us anymore. We'll see you one time, and then we're like, good luck, like
right,
moving alive. So honestly, like the postpartum period is also such a hard time because you're isolated, you have a baby, it's stressful for your partner, you're sleep deprived, you're dehydrated, you're hungry, you're bleeding, you're in pain.
Yes.
There's a lot of adjustments. And like, God forbid you have like a C-section or a complicated delivery, or you have hypertension, like there's just so many things going on. So I really think the postpartum period is honestly where we really fall short in caring for women and families.
Okay. Speaking about postpartum, you mentioned there's so many people, right? I don't know how many patients you have. How many patients do you have?
Girl, I don't know. I mean, I see like 7 or 8 people a week in my little like half day clinic, but I take call and labor and delivery like once or twice, 3 times a month. So it's just hard to know. But I would say in my own clinic, I probably have like maybe like 50, 60 patients.
Okay. So we're talking about a mass number. And then
I would say the average person has way more, because they're like in clinic I'm only in clinic like half a day a week, but most physicians are in clinic probably like 2-3 days a week.
Wow.
Like 2 and 10, 20 patients,
a day.
Yeah, a day. And then we see every like what month. So like that's like,
wow.
Yeah, hundreds of patients.
So when I think about this, and then also the delivery room, you have nurses that don't know you, don't know your medical history, don't know anything about it really. I mean, they have a chart, but they don't know. And then after, like you were saying, like the whole postpartum and then going forward, I know my personal experience has always been that I have to share my information with the nurses. So I have to say, they'll say like, your blood pressure is 140, you can go. With Action, they released me. I came back within 2 days because I had preeclampsia and I had to come back. But my doctor said, well, they shouldn't have released you because you're known for this. They have to keep you. But just with any type of situation, we know that the nurses don't know you as well as your doctor. How do you help, or do you help patients before they go in to advocate for themselves? Because you don't really talk to the nurses about every single one of your patients. That's unrealistic. So they're not going to know, because you don't even know what nurses are there, right? Like you probably don't know all of them. So what is the relationship? How can they like be prepared for that?
So I try to talk to all patients before they go into labor delivery and kind of prepare them for usually it's like an induction because I see high risk patients. So, but the average person is just going to be out there in the world like pregnant until they go into labor.
Yeah.
But my patients are high risk, so usually I'm setting them up for inductions. So I usually have a chance to see them and I talk to them about what induction looks like, what labor looks like, kind of what to expect, like what medications that we use, like who's going to be on labor and delivery, like what the anesthesia setup is like, what you can get for pain and when. And I try to be like very detailed about like their specific problems. So I'll say like, oh, like you have a history of preeclampsia, so make sure you mention to the nurses so they can keep an eye on your blood pressure. But also like chart in the problem list. Like every patient has a problem list in their chart. And so I try to be very detailed in the problem list. Like any issue they've ever had, it's on there. Like diabetes, history of preeclampsia, history of eclampsia, like just like people are on the lookout. For those things when they kind of like glance at the problem list and they know like, oh, well, this patient has a pressure that's 140/90. It's been totally normal this whole pregnancy, but in the last pregnancy she had preeclampsia. So like maybe this is a sign that she's getting preeclampsia again. Like I try to like put those little things in the problem list. And the nurses really should be like looking at everyone's problem list and talking to the patient and getting a detailed kind of like history, and the doctors are doing that too as well. And so, but I always talk to my patients, I'm like, these are the things that like you should be worried about. Like, don't forget to mention that you had like a history of X, Y, and Z. But I will say, like, you guys haven't asked about it yet, but you probably are going to ask about birth plans. I will say, like, a lot of birth plans, I'm not going to lie, are just full of stuff that doesn't really matter. They're like things that we do anyway, like delayed cord clamping and like X, Y, and Z. The most helpful birth plans that I've ever read in my life are the ones that like clue me in on someone's history that I may not have known about.
Okay.
So, like, for example, I've had patients who have had a history of like sexual assault. And so then they put in their birth plan, like, just so you know, I have a history of sexual assault. And so exams may be difficult for me. And this is something that I'm working on. These are some coping mechanisms that I'm using, or these are some things that I would like you to do before you examine me that would help make the process much smoother. And those are actually the things that I actually think are the most useful for birth, like birth plans and reading about the birth plans. I'm like, oh, like that's something that I could have like easily maybe have seen in the chart, you know, or I would have had to ask her to find that out. And so that those are I think that's like actually the best part about a birth plan is like cluing your team into something. Or people that had traumatic deliveries in the past will put like just like in their birth plan, like I have a history of traumatic delivery. In the last delivery, this is what happened to me. So in this delivery, I would really appreciate it if we could, you know, be very communicative and like on the lookout for this and blah, 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 you know, X, Y, and Z. So
that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh?
And do you, I actually, people talk about birth plans, but I've never heard of giving your doctor the birth plan, like writing it down. And is that something they give to you like during an appointment?
No, they give, I mean, ideally I like to look at the birth plans before people go to the hospital, because sometimes the things they put in there, I'm like, that's not gonna fly. Like the no IV thing, like that necessarily isn't gonna fly on a labor and delivery unit. In like a birthing center, yes, absolutely. You don't have to have an IV, like that's not a thing there. But like in a hospital, people are probably gonna feel a way about, you know, having an IV. And so
if they suggest where they put the IV, maybe they're like, I prefer my IV on the side, in the front, than the whatever.
Yeah, because Lindsay has preferences. Yeah.
Well, my hand swells up when it's on the top of my hand. So I didn't know that until it happened. And so it's like, okay, things that you wouldn't know. You would put it on the top of my hand because it's easier for, say, that nurse. And then next thing you know, I have a swollen hand for 2 days. So, yeah.
I think that's perfect. Let your nurse know. That's something I think is completely reasonable.
I have probably like one question left. And before we wrap this up, because it's been so informative, I know. But my question is, what as we talk about planning, you were talking about prenatal and then also postpartum. What are some things? I heard you say hydration a lot. I know that when Lindsay was having her boys after our first, we started doing the baby aspirin. And so, like, what are some things that you would suggest for a woman who's pregnant that like people don't really know about? We didn't know about the aspirin until after we had our stillbirth. And then they told us like, oh, next time you get pregnant, you should have aspirin. Like things that people will know. And you said hydration twice. Like people are, so I don't know how much water somebody should be drinking. Like what are some like tips for that for the prenatal and also for postpartum to help with the healing process? What's some tips you got for that? Because I, as the husband, I would want to help out. Like, oh, the doctor said give you ginger, or the doctor said this, and so things that I can encourage, or the partner can encourage the person carrying.
So I think prenatally, like most people don't know that like prenatal vitamins are like before you get pregnant, you take prenatal vitamins. So like if you think so anyone that is like reproductive aged person who like is not on a contraception or birth control, who potentially could get pregnant, should be on a prenatal vitamin. Like that is like, it's for like the prenatal time period to really optimize, because all your baby's organs are going to form like the first like 10 weeks of the pregnancy. So that's how you realize you're pregnant and get on the vitamin, like the spinal cord and all the big things have already formed. And so I think the prenatal vitamin before you get pregnant is key. Make sure it has like folic acid in it. Again, kind of like getting to your optimal weight, like your optimal BMI. Ideally, you want to be under 25, so like a good pre-pregnancy weight. In terms of like the nausea, I think the ginger snaps, ginger tea, like are some nice natural ways to like try to curb nausea. The pressure points on the wrist. But we also have medication that we can prescribe if those things don't work. Hydration wise, I would say you should be drinking like a gallon of water a day. Like you should be just like constantly drinking water, like very hydrated. Like I don't want you just chugging a gallon, but like throughout the day, you should be able to get down at least a gallon. In terms of exercise, a lot of people, there's so many like misconceptions about exercise and pregnancy, but like people should continue to exercise even when they're pregnant. I don't want you to like playing football or like, getting hit in the abdomen, but like you can continue to do cardio, you can continue to lift as long as you feel comfortable lifting, those kinds of things. So once you kind of maintain that exercise and that fitness for as long as you can, we don't want you to get like too deconditioned in your pregnancy. And that'll make your labor process go smoother as well. Other things, I'm trying to think what else. Oh, the aspirin. I honestly think that everyone should be on aspirin. Like, I know we have like these criteria, the like high risk factors and the moderate risk factors, but I'm just like, it can't hurt to take a baby aspirin. Like, it's been studied for a long time. It's tried and true. There's no adverse risk to mom or baby. Like that, it can only help. And so the aspirin thing is supposed to be around 12 weeks. As you probably remember, to help reduce your risk of preeclampsia, and that risk reduction is like 7 to 10%. And it doesn't necessarily reduce like you actually getting preeclampsia, but it reduces like the onset. It kind of delays like people from getting that early preeclampsia, like 28-week preeclampsia. So if people will get like maybe like 37-week preeclampsia instead.
And it's time to take that baby out.
Exactly. Before preeclampsia is delivery. So I think that, the aspirin thing, I'm just like, if you're a Black woman and it's your first pregnancy, like you should be asking why you're not on aspirin, because being a first-time mom and being Black are two factors that should rule you in for aspirin.
Wow. And what do you have for postpartum?
Yeah, postpartum. So postpartum, oh man, so many things. Make sure everyone has a Tdap booster. Like everyone always forgets that commercial where the grandma's like coughing on the baby and like like flying out of her mouth. But everyone should have their Tdap for the tetanus booster. The grandparents, people with the waning immunity who are older. People should be like you yourself obviously can like store a bunch of crock pot meals, but like if anyone's coming over to see you, they need to bring in food, because you're gonna have time to cook for yourself. And so I think like the main thing that I tell patients is like try to make a bunch of crock pot meals like a few weeks before you deliver and freeze them all so that you can just like have easy meals to kind of like defrost postpartum. I know there's a lot of like breastfeeding is the best thing that you can do for your baby, and I fully support everyone who breastfeeds, but I think that breastfeeding is also a huge cause of postpartum depression, because a lot of people feel inadequate or they have a lot of strong feelings about breastfeeding. And so I really just try to encourage people, like, ultimately, as long as your baby is eating something, like it's getting fed, that's really the best thing. And like, if you can breastfeed, that's so great. And that's what I really want for you. But if it's causing a bunch of problems, it's not working out, it's affecting your mental health, like, it is okay to give your child a bottle. And I know that there's like some breastfeeding people out there and who are going to like slaughter me for saying this. But I just see it as we put a lot of pressure on women to breastfeed. And I just think that if we're going to put that much pressure on someone, there needs to be more support. Like, we need to be having like in-house postpartum, lactation consultants coming to your house, helping
for free, not for $600. That lactation consultant. Yes.
That's where the pressure that we're going to put on people to breastfeed, we need to also give the support. And so I just see that as a huge source of like a lot of feelings of inadequacy and depression in a lot of patients postpartum. They just, I'm just like, it's a lot. And then people always ask about like sex. I'm like, try to give it 6 weeks, let everything heal up. Then I know the men always make that face. They're like, well, I'm like,
well, it's because once they get pregnant, I think it's like no sex for a while, and then they can have sex, and then after
usually
you can have
more
sex
than
for a
6
while.
weeks. Like, it was
So
just
kind of like
6 weeks.
So yeah, they always talk about that 6 weeks, but what about when she first got pregnant and they told me not to have sex? What about all that?
Or but
what if like 12 weeks?
Sure. It's like, what's she doing? She ain't drinking. She ain't doing a lot this whole time, sleeping this whole. So everyone's making sacrifices.
Yeah, everybody is.
And I will let you in on a secret that like the 6 week recommendation kind of is not necessarily rooted in evidence, but we feel quite strongly about it.
Is that especially if you give birth vaginally, or is it different? Like, if you have a C-section, then technically down there is fine.
I mean, people generally are like bleeding for 6 weeks after they have a baby. So I'm just kind of like, do you boo? It's a lot of
right. And if a man's like, I don't care, then
I want to give it a minute to get itself together. What else?
You on some DJ Khaled? Another one. I want another one.
No.
I know. And then people are like, back pregnant again. I'm like, girl, told you 18 months.
Yeah.
What else? There's just so much stuff postpartum. I think people can exercise whenever they feel ready postpartum. But I think the main thing really is just like, you know, you guys have kids. You tell me, what do you think postpartum was like for you guys?
Postpartum was the necessity of helpful people is like, was so key for me. And I know, like, you were talking about postpartum depression, and I was very emotional. I didn't have postpartum depression, but the emotions that ranged, and I saw myself, but it was like uncontrollable to a sense. But to have those helpful, supportive, non-judgmental people in my life, my mom in love, my siblings, like those people that would bring me the baby or, you know, do for me, that was clutch, because I always also have more to my delivery. So for me, it's not just like, I mean, God bless anyone who can have the baby and go home, you know, and just be, and then just have to understand that part. But it's always have the baby
about to die.
you might not, you know, you got to go back in, or you got to get more, you got to we have like a couple of weeks of being under severe observation, and really, you know, the months of figuring it out. So it is like, they're bringing me food, they're bringing me water, they're understanding, and just having understanding people around you. I think that that's the most helpful thing. No one who is not there, my sister, everyone who is there for me, you know.
Not the people, not like the old school people who were like, well, back in my day we used to do it like this, and you need to do this and stuff like that.
I don't need advice. I don't need advice. I don't need, you know, I actually probably don't really need too much conversation, right? I just, it's more so I'm bringing you things. And that's, I mean, you know, it might seem selfish now that I'm saying it, but it's not, you know, that's what's happening right now. And it's just for a short amount of time. So I always think like, oh my gosh, I'm being too needy for too long, but it's really just a short amount of time that women or the man too, because people need to check on Aaron. I'm always like, check on my husband, y'all, because he's going through it too. He's not sleeping too. So it's the unit and it's that support that's really helpful.
Yeah, Aaron, what do you think?
The main thing it's just having someone around.
Yeah.
Like having extra support is probably the biggest thing. I don't know how people do it without the extra support, how they don't go crazy, because sometimes I need to just leave. Like I just need to leave and walk, or leave and like, because I know
Now.
yeah, it's like I know in the 6 weeks or the 3 months or whatever, emotions get high, and it's not about me. Like it's not about me at all. It's about this baby and this woman to heal and this baby to grow. So like it's almost like sometimes I need to take that break for my own mental health to be like, yes, I am a person, and then come back down and be the bottom of the totem pole. Like who needs to eat first? Well, on a regular day, it's like, oh, I want the big piece of chicken. No, you don't get the big piece of chicken. She gets the big piece of chicken. The baby gets any nutrients that they need, and you get whatever else is later. Or if she needs to sleep, and I gotta wake up and I gotta hold the baby while she needs to sleep and stuff like that. So just having somebody who could tag me out, and I could go and just find whatever space it is, whether it be like go read a book by myself, go for a walk. I go running. I like to run, so go for a run or go play basketball, whatever it is, where I can have a little time for myself to re-energize, coming back and knowing that it's not about me at that time. It's not the time to be selfish, is it? But I mean, postpartum, and also having those witch hazels things and everything that you need, heat pads, like your whole little everything.
Bathrooms.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so crazy about all the stuff that people sell you on, especially like the media. I mean, it's huge. YouTube and just everything. It's like there's a whole kit that you could get, for $99 that is supposed to prepare you for everything. And I mean, for me, I didn't even use most of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't.
They don't prepare you with that baby don't sleep.
Right. I know. That's the part that I tell everyone. I'm like, having a baby really changes things. Like, I mean, how do you guys think having kids change your marriage?
I mean,
yeah, well, it changed our first journey was a stillbirth, so that changed. That rocked our marriage crazy, but then it made us stronger, and it kind of like opened up this whole wide world of. I think it took us out of the honeymoon phase. Whatever we could have been in a honeymoon, yeah, we could have been 100. Yeah, we could have 5-10 years. We could have been in it, but it really was just like, oh no, the world is real. All the like rainbows and butterflies. No, there are going to be hard times in a relationship, and it builds character and it also makes us question more things. When I go to the doctor now, I'm asking more questions just on a regular physical, because I'm like, at first I used to just whatever the doctor told me, I was just like, okay, but I was like, no, this is an interaction, because I felt like I didn't ask enough question with our first son. And so when Lindsay got pregnant the second time, I'm at all these appointments and I'm raising my hand. I'm like, well, the other day, because I used to write down things that she would just say to me on a whim. I was like, well, the other day she said her eye was twitching and something like that.
The telltale partner, I love those.
Yeah, so and because she'll be like the doctor
on blast.
I know. Oh, I put her on blast because the doctor goes, "Is there any questions?" And she'll go, and I'm like, "Well, let me pull out my phone."
What you said. But here's a question that I asked, because you brought it up and you were saying if you are first time pregnancy in Black, and you're a Black doctor, so you have certain things on your radar just by your identity. Do you suggest women seek out certain providers based off of, because all the providers that we've had, all of my OBs have actually been white women, Jewish women, and they did not think to talk about the aspirin or the blood pressure or anything like that.
No, we forced the issue after
nothing
that.
was on the radar. Even after, I was like, hey, this is what has happened to me. What if we do things differently this time? And they were like, well, your history is other than that, right? Because other than that, I'm a perfect specimen, right?
Yes, you are.
So it's like, okay, how important is it to choose the right provider? And then how do you suggest people go about that?
Yeah, so I have a couple of friends, as you can imagine, who are OBGYNs, and the ones who are white tell me that they have had Black patients ask them, like, like, what are your thoughts on the maternal mortality crisis in the country right now, and how that impacts Black women, and what are you doing to make a difference in that sphere? I think that's a great kind of like screening question for any OBGYN or any provider midwife that you're going to see as a Black woman and you're worried about, like, if they're going to be in tune with specific, disparities and how they impact the birthing experience and the outcomes of Black women. And so a lot of my friends have actually, like, they know about this and they have great answers to these questions. They're doing a lot of work in this field, even though they're not Black people. But now they're just like, sometimes they're like, you know what? I have a partner who's Black, and if you want, I can schedule you to see her with your next visit. And I'm like, yeah, send them my way. And so I think that's just like a really good question to kind of ask and to kind of bring up to your provider at your first visit. And if they like can't give you a good answer, then like who else in your practice do you think I should see that might be a better fit? A lot of people honestly will just look us up, because I have my co-fellow also is a Black woman, and it's us two, and then we have one other partner who's a Black man. But they'll just like Google us, and then they'll just schedule appointments with us. But unfortunately, because it's just us two, like, we're always so booked, and so I'm always like, we just need more Black doctors, more Black midwives, more Black everybody. Like, honestly, I think my practice needs right now was a Black like midwife or nurse practitioner who I can collaborate with, who can do a lot of the, like, because a lot of my patients that I see, they're high risk, but like I don't have to see them at every single visit for a high risk issue. And a lot of what they need too is just like some low risk kind of like normal care. And so I think that we could definitely improve access if I had like someone working with me who could do some of that low risk kind of like care while I focus on the high risk stuff, and like maybe see them every other visit so I could see more patients overall. And so like in my dream world, that's what my practice will look like. And I have a sister who actually is in nurse practitioner school right now. And so I'm hoping that like when he finishes, her and I can, open up I can have a little practice together.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
I definitely think there's nothing wrong with like trying to see a provider who looks like you, because even the way that I talk to my patients who are Black is just different, because like we just, culturally it's just different. Like I'm like, girl, why are you playing? Like, what are you doing? Take your medication.
Yes.
Yeah. I talk to my Black, because I know that culturally that it's just different, and they can handle kind of like more of like my like tough love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, girl, what are you doing right now? Like, why are you playing games? Like, take the aspirin.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, this has been wonderful. Okay, did you have any other questions before I ask the?
Oh no, we're good. We got the jewel question. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We want to ask you. This is how we close it every time. Is what's one jewel that you could share with a couple or a woman that would help smooth into this next transition in their life?
One jewel, I would say trust your instincts. I feel like I tell everyone this, like I have of course like studied for a million years, but at the end of the day, you are the expert on you, and you know your body, and like what is not normal, what feels off. And so if at any time like something feels off or not right, trust your gut, trust your instinct, and know that you are right and you're the expert on your body, and you tell me. I think that's like my general rule for like life and like pregnancy. I'm like, you are the expert in yourself.
Thank you for joining us on this recap episode. I really hope that you reach out, comment, subscribe, share with friends, especially friends that you know are on this journey, on this marriage life-growing relationship journey, please do share it with them because it's valuable. You can also reach out to Dr. Maura Jones. She has said that you can definitely follow and ask her questions. Her Instagram name is Mocha in Medicine. And also, you know, follow us and comment and tell us what you're going through. First Comes Love TCM on Instagram.
This is our best season yet. We're getting better every year. This season is amazing. This podcast is amazing. So make sure you share with your friends, that you subscribe, that you tell everybody you know about it. And you also call our voicemail at 412-LOVE-POD. That's 412-5683-763.
And you can email us always. Let's talk at firstcomeslove, thenComesMarriage.com.
See you next Friday.